Welcome back, everyone. Well, with less than a week before a new commander-in-chief is sworn in, there is a lot of unrest, as we know, going on, and there could be more, as we know, leading up into the days toward the inauguration on Wednesday, January 20th. Joining us now is GOP military strategist Adam Roosevelt. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Laverne.
First off, I want to get your opinion on these resignations that are happening now from the Trump administration.
Yeah, I will say that this is perfect timing for a lot of the administration officials to begin their transition. We know now with the outcome based on President Trump going out of office and President-elect Biden coming into office, folks are going to be looking to position themselves in career positions for 501c3s, some board positions. So I would anticipate that this was probably being planned long in advance. But now with the nexus of the events that happened on Capitol Hill, we surely know that there's going to be a more agile decision for those folks to seek employment elsewhere, just to position themselves for financial opportunity and career decisions.
What about your thoughts on the possibility that this was an inside job? So many people saying there's no way that those rioters could have got through like that unless there was help on the inside.
We've seen several videos that allege that certain members in law enforcement were allowing protesters, and essentially, however they want to categorize this, domestic terrorists. We'll let the video speak for itself. But some folks were caught on camera allowing folks to enter the building. We had folks exiting the Capitol building, and folks were literally allowed to enter the building. So definitely the investigative reports need to really go into a deep investigation on this to identify members that were involved and that effectively allowed, for reduced security posture on that building. But I think there's a lot of videos out there right now, and we definitely need to look at the footage. The FBI and the local law enforcement need to make some decisions fairly quickly.
I mean, how would you have felt? You've got a military background. How would you have felt knowing that some of your own members of your own team there are working against you because you're black?
Well, I would say this is an American conversation. I won't pull color into this primarily because I have to lead above the fray, and I've spoken out across multiple news networks across the world, and I'm here as an American first. But I will tell you that there definitely is a conversation about the nexus of how African Americans would have been treated. That's a conversation that's happening. It's a major headline versus how folks were able to go into that building, and we saw a much different preparation, I would say, and a lot of others would say, for what those folks were able to do and what folks that were trying to protest and African American issues were not able to do. So I'll just say that we definitely have a problem across the nation, but we have to raise the flag for America first to make sure, that the values of all Americans are being pushed forward and denounce all actions such as this.
Yeah, but I got to ask you respectfully, you say you're an American first, but let's face it, the whole point of this is that, they're upset about minorities, about black communities, Black Lives Matter. How do you say you're an American first when the other part of the country that are not people of color are fighting against black folks?
I'll tell you this, there's multiple people involved in this fight for freedom. We've got activists, we've got politicians, we've got local leaders, we have the military, the 1% who puts their lives on the line, for all things involved in our constitutional rights. So now that I'm out of the U.S. military, my job is to be the bridge for all of those groups that need to come together to have the conversation. I grew up very poor. I grew up in a very rough neighborhood. I've been fighting racism myself. I'm an African-American male, but I got to ask myself as a leader, what position in this fight do I want to take? What position do I want to be categorized as? And I have to hold the high ground here for my children. And I think once we're able to build a momentum, a voice, we're able to connect across multiple avenues to bring people together. And we have to take the high ground here in America. No matter what happens, we have to be the higher voice to unite all Americans across the country.
And I do respect that you want to be the higher voice. It's just that black people always seem to have to take the higher ground. Let's face it, Adam, if you were driving down the road in some part of the country that people didn't know you and you got pulled over, they wouldn't know that you're Republican. They wouldn't know that you're former military. They would see a black man. So you could talk about the fact that, it's all about being an American first and that sort of thing and taking the high road. But you yourself are at risk.
I would say I'll just give you a bit of truth. Obviously, I am African American. I've had infractions, in my life. And I will say my job is to get smart. My job is to train our folks long term to be strategic thinkers, economics, business opportunities, integrating with law enforcement, establishing family offices. The campaign that I believe is great for the African American community is a much different fight. I want to take us to the United Nations. I want to take us to Congress. I want to prepare us to be assistant secretaries and secretaries of defense. That's a long road. So the strategy that I would advocate for is looking at the long picture here. These aren't short-run decisions. They're long-term, and I'm here to make sure that our folks make it through the journey to accomplish that objective.
All right, I will leave it there. We are out of time, but we appreciate you as always, Adam Roosevelt, military strategist for the GOP. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Laverne.